Hey everyone, welcome back to your week ahead astrology breakdown. I'm Matthew Oliver with Stillwater Alchemy, and I trust you all had a very illuminating solar eclipse this weekend. I heard many different accounts, variations, success stories, periods of contraction, crystal tears were shed by some. So no matter where you're at in your journey, I want you to honor the work, honor where you're at. And if you're in a period of contraction, know that the expansion is coming. Know that whatever pain or discomfort that you are going through or that you went through was needed to propel you forward, right? And this came up in the live gathering that I did, but this notion that there's always going to be contraction and there's always going to be expansion. And if you need proof of that or a reminder that the expansion is coming, literally just acknowledge your breathing. You know that at the end of one breath, another one is coming. Even if there's periods where, if some of you have had trouble breathing, or if you are running or exercising and you're short of breath, the breath comes and consistently comes. And sometimes if you need assistance while breathing, or if you need to take a break to recatch your breath, the breath will come. The blessings will come. The love will come. It is coming currently in this current moment. And I think that's a beautiful metaphor with Libra season being cardinal air, the first breath, the first thought. When we move from a period of contraction, it's that next step in the journey. What we are letting go to call in something new, the new idea, the new agreement, the new relationship, the new job, whatever that is. So just some things to ponder as you are still integrating the eclipse. And if you have not yet, you can take a look at my workshop, the new Moon Solar Eclipse. There's lots of good, juicy information there, as well as a meditation. In terms of general announcements, I release this in my newsletter, but in case you did not open it or you're not currently on Stillwater's newsletter, for the rest of October, past life regression readings are on sale for 30% off using the promo code PLR at checkout. I'll put that in the description of this video, so that if you want a past life regression reading, which I feel like are very potent during eclipse cycle, as we're closing out chapters, as we are starting anew, just like when our soul closes one timeline and starts a new timeline, it's all very symbolic, because remember, all of these timelines are happening at the exact same time, in this timeline, in previous timelines, and in future timelines. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can use that promo code to save 30% off. And also all other readings, if you want one-on-one services, my schedule is updated on my website, so you can take a peek there. Now, for the greatest victory of the week, I love that some of you shared your greatest victory of the week in the comments, and I want to share. I'm not sure if we'll do this every week, but I think it's good to honor the victories, to share that, to build this up as a frequency within our community of these week ahead astrology breakdowns. So this one comes from Gina B. Patrick. Hey, Gina. Greatest victory from last week, receiving a payout, small but powerful, for my writing online. Snaps for Gina. It was just a few cents, but the feeling ignited was extremely powerful, as I am using it to fuel, to charge up the power of the beginning of my new chapter. So if we distill this, getting paid for your work, getting paid for your passion, and like Gina acknowledged, it doesn't matter how much money it is. It's the feeling of feeling that what you're doing is acknowledged, what you're doing is supporting you. That's the feeling. And that's what we are wanting to accomplish here with any new goal, any new mindset, is the feeling of forward movement, or the feeling of passion, or the feeling of success, to allow you to move forward with confidence, to see the next step. That's the win. That's a phenomenal victory to cheer on. Also, too, when I was reading this, it was kind of like in Legally Blonde 2, Red, White, and Blonde, when Elle Woods is the snap cup mistress and everyone shares their victories and they go snaps for whomever put in their blessing into the snap cup. So we might incorporate a snap there, or you can snap for yourself when things go well, as a way of positively affirming the victories in your life. My greatest victory in conjunction with last week was making it to yoga class, but it was an additional add-on to that. I was pressed for time. I was pressed like a panini. It takes me a certain amount of time to walk to my gym, and I just like the walk going there. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to have to run. And it was beautiful because as I was running, it's like all the lights turned green. Everything worked out. I got there with 2 minutes to spare. I got a match by the super cute guy. I was like, oh, thank you, universe. And the victory lied in this one pose that I could feel like a lot of people in the room were struggling with. I'm like, oh, I've actually, even just in a few short weeks, I'm able to really feel comfortable in this pose. And the way that the music was playing in the background, the way that I was feeling during that pose, I was like, oh, the work is working of me showing up to this class, even though sometimes I didn't want to go, truthfully. Sometimes I wanted to go faster. I was like, oh, I'd rather not be here. I want to be working out or doing other things. But me carving out that time, even just once a week, even just 1 hour a week, I was already starting to see the results, which is pretty phenomenal if you really think of just investing 1 hour a week into a certain practice, which you know is going to benefit you, which I feel like we can all resonate with. And I want to share that too, because it felt it's like there was no bounds in what I could accomplish in that moment of me holding that pose. I was like, oh, if I can do this, I can do anything in a very short period of time. If I just put aside 1 hour a week of being intentional, literally the universe moved mountains. I was running to make that class on time, which is fine. Literally every green light so I could run across the street with the walk sign was active. Everything I needed was made for me to get to that class, had a beautiful man in front of me, and I was able to feel these things. That's pretty astounding. And that's why I think we all know these things to be true, whether it's like your first time at a market, your first time getting paid for something you love, that first date that goes really well, accomplishing things in the gym. It's all connected. How you do one thing is how you get to do everything. Seeing the results in one area of your life allows you to see that's possible in other areas. So that was my greatest victory of the week, was being able to hold that pose and really feeling like all these chains of limitations were being dropped, and it's a vibe. So with that being said, let's hop into the week ahead, shall we? Boom. So we have Monday, October 16th. We're starting with the moon in Scorpio. She is separating from that opposition to Jupiter and then also finding that opposition to Uranus while making a trine to Neptune. This can be where there's very succinct intuitive downloads on what you need to do moving forward. So if you've taken the weekend to integrate the eclipses, you might still be deep in your feels. Hello, it's moon in Scorpio. The moon sometimes can feel like it's moving through a lot, or it feels like it doesn't have anyone that I can understand what it's going through emotionally. So if you're feeling like you've been moving through a lot, if you've been crying a lot, if you've been processing a lot, know that this moon in Scorpio is going to help you transmute that or alchemize the feelings, the pain, the disturbances to help you move through that. And this can be a big part where you see synchronicities, or kind of like my story where it's like you just run, get all the green lights, where you start seeing the work working, or you lean deeper into prayer, your spiritual practices, even creative outlets, right? For those of you that are artistic, or you know that certain modalities like painting or dancing or singing really help you to move energy, please engage in that on Monday. Also, given that the moon is opposing Uranus, you want to be very careful with the energy that you're taking on in terms of social media or certain people. Like, it might be wise on Monday to turn notifications off or to put your phone on airplane mode so you can really understand your channel or what intuitive downloads you're getting. This is going to be a great day, though, for creative outlets, for feeling what you're wanting to feel in terms of a new timeline. And then anything that's not in alignment, I feel will be very obvious. One thing I want to know throughout this week is we had that new moon solar eclipse in the sign of Libra. Libra is ruled by Venus, and Venus right now is in Virgo. And all throughout this week, the trine between Venus and Jupiter is getting closer and closer, with this trine going exact over the weekend. What that means is it would be advantageous for all of us to look at the houses in which Virgo and Taurus rule in our chart, because there's going to be a lot of blessings having both benefics and there being partial mutual reception, given that Venus rules over Taurus. There's a lot of blessings to be harvested here. And so if there are certain things in your life that might be challenging and difficult, we can look to where the benefic planets are always, but especially with this weak and strong aspect with one another, this is going to be a really big bright spot, which like I said, activates later on in the week. So that's something to really look forward to and be mindful of so that we can cultivate that gratitude, cultivate that expansion as we may be moving through something that might feel a bit more intense on the other side of our chart, okay? Now, if we move forward onto Tuesday, we have the moon finishing up her transit in Scorpio, which means that she's making this sextile to Pluto. And she's also going to be moving into Sagittarius later on in the day, where she'll face a square to Saturn. So part of this feels to me of like reclaiming your power, knowing what needs to be done, and then setting hard boundaries, because that is going to be that moon square Saturn. It might be difficult where you know what you have to do. It might be putting a pause or a boundary on a certain opportunity or relationship, or just certain habits that you know are not serving you, certain mindsets, if certain negative mindsets keeping up again and again. It's like, okay, I need to be mindful of this. What needs to change, or where do I need to be more disciplined so that these things don't keep coming up again and again and again? Now, what this can also be a manifestation of is you know what needs to be done and you're being called to go higher, because remember, Saturn has an element of mastery. And this is also interesting as well with Saturn now being at 0 degrees, because I'm not one that really goes into degree theory as much in my own personal practice. I know other astrologers do, and if you choose to do so, that's fabulous. What I do like to look at, though, in transits and in natal charts is when things are at 0 degrees and 29 degrees, because it can be like very obvious beginnings or levels of mastery if it's at 29 degrees. So with Saturn being at 0 degrees right now, and with the moon entering Sagittarius midday on Tuesday, depending on where you're at, there could be this opportunity for you to set a new boundary, or to put aside time, or to be more disciplined, or to reach higher into more expansive power through time, through mentorship on Tuesday. So I really want you to be honest with yourself and all the emotions and what you're processing. Is there something coming up on Tuesday where you're being called to invest time, energy, or money into becoming stronger, more disciplined, or more powerful? That is what I want to leave you with, especially if it means adapting or pivoting, or maybe doing something you've never done before. Because with the moon in Sagittarius and then Saturn in Pisces later on Tuesday, those are both mutable signs. So it's doing things and shaking things up, and not doing things in a predictable manner, not doing things in a safe manner. It's really being honest with yourself and trusting in a more expansive, more prosperous way of approaching something moving forward. And it could feel like the one kind of final contraction before the expansion, or something that you're excited to sink your teeth into, right? Because it might mean you're going to be more disciplined in a field of study, or going and prioritizing your health, or putting yourself out there and dating. But that may mean that other things are not going to be as much of a priority, and reshifting so that you're comfortable and where you're allocating your time. So these are things to keep in mind on Tuesday, all right? Now, Wednesday is interesting because we have this Mercury South Node conjunction, and then we have the moon in Sagittarius making a square to Venus. Now, that square to Venus and the moon in Sagittarius can also be happening on Tuesday. So there might be something where you're receiving closure around a relationship with a mother or a feminine figure or influence. That might happen on Tuesday. That might be happening on Wednesday. That might also be the boundary that you're putting forward, is with either blocking up more time for your feminine to rest, to relax, to be more creative. It could be a physical block or an ending with a certain relationship. And an ending isn't always severing something. It's meaning it's the end of how you're engaging with that relationship or with that job. There's also that, I mean, we can always throw in a Sex and the City analogy here. When Miranda is a mother, spoiler alert, but in the later seasons when she has a baby, and her work is like, you're falling asleep, you're not showing up, and Miranda's like, I'm putting in 60 hours, I've never taken time off, da 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 da. And she goes back and negotiates, and it's like, I can only put in, like, what is it, instead of 80 hours, she puts in 60, and she's like 50 tops. And she's also a new mother. And so she negotiated putting a boundary on how many hours she was putting in at the office so that she could get home on time to tuck her son into bed. And so that can also be a relationship as well, where it's like the way you approach something has to die so that there is a new relationship, a new way of you showing up that's going to happen. That's likely to happen on Tuesday or Wednesday as well, with this Moon Venus square, as well as Mercury conjunct the South Node. And this might also be with Mercury, has to do with work, commerce. It could be you having a conversation. It could be you letting go of a mindset that is then going to help you establish better relationships moving forward. Okay. So Tuesday, Wednesday, in terms of this week, can be more challenging. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll have different things, but it's meant to ultimately serve you. And then once we move into the tail end of this week, things get really good with regards to transits. But I just want you to know that something is likely to be released or a boundary is going to be formed Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay. Now, Thursday. Thursday is nice because even though we have this Moon Saturn square, we also have the moon making a sextile to Mercury and the sun. So what does this mean? One part of this is like, I don't want you to go back on your word. There may be a very tempting or a very easy way to dissolve a boundary or to not make things disciplined, or for you to be like, that seems too hard. It's not going to work, for old mindsets or old things to come back. That can also be a manifestation of Mercury conjunct the South Node, as old ways of thinking or old ways of feeling safe or old ways of feeling balanced may try to come back. It's like, I don't know if I can really do this. What if, all these things that can come up in our mind, especially with this square to Neptune. So Thursday would also be a day where I would be very hesitant to go on social media to distract yourself, because you can really get sucked in. I often say, like, remember, any challenging aspect with Neptune can be very nebulous. It can be one thing that was said or one post or one news story can make you spiral. That's not what we're going with here. If anything, Thursday would be a great day to see a healer, a coach, a therapist, because then we're working with the mind. We're working on rebalancing from an optimistic tone with the moon in Sagittarius, so that you can challenge old stories, old fantasies, old illusion, things that aren't real. Because here's the thing, perception is reality. And if you always view things through a certain lens or a certain mindset, it's always going to be real. I talk with a lot of clients, and even just people I meet in my day-to-day, and the way they phrase things always comes true, because that is what they believe. And with Neptune and this moon square, this goes back to feeling how we want to feel, but also knowing what narratives and stories and what energies we're around, because Neptune has a lot to do with the quote unquote vibe that we feel from people, from certain situations, from opportunities. And that is, again, too, where your intuition, your instincts come into play. So you can really trust your instincts. You can trust when things don't feel aligned, or when they don't feel joyous and bountiful and optimistic, especially with the moon in Sagittarius. Like, say, where do I need to rebalance myself? Where do these things not make sense? So I can use my mind, so I can use this energy of Libra to help the moon overcome the square to Neptune, okay? Now, the good news is, once we move on to Friday, Friday is the day. Friday is a phenomenal day. There's so many positive aspects. So Friday is a day to mark on your calendar, put a giant star, because this is kind of what dreams are made of. This is a fabulous day. And if you've used the rest of the week to your advantage, I can guarantee you something positive. Even if it's not a physical manifestation, it'll be an energy, it'll be an emotion, it'll be a download, it'll be something will likely to be coming through. And here is why. One, we have the Sun-Mercury Cazimi. This is phenomenal. Remember, we just had one of these, what was it, in September? Not too long ago, when we had the Mercury retrograde Cazimi in Virgo conjunct the sun. A lot of people had a lot of beautiful downloads, a lot of things coming in very quickly. So this gets to be like that, but Mercury is no longer retrograde here, and it's leaving that close conjunction with the South Node, right? So it could be almost like you let something go and now something positive is already forming, because remember, Libra is cardinal air. So it's the initiation of a thought, a conversation, a contract, a relationship. So something new could be emerging at this time. We also have the moon gaining light, right? So even though it was a solar eclipse, it was a new moon. So now the moon is gaining energy. There's likely something to be initiated or moving forward, because the moon is moving into its first quarter phase once it gets into the later degrees of Capricorn. Secondly, we see this beautiful grand Earth trine that's happening as well between moon in Capricorn, Venus in Virgo, Jupiter in Taurus. This is phenomenal. This is, again, when we're talking about earth energy, physical matters, health, money, stability, opportunities that are going to help you feel grounded, stable, and secure. So a couple ways you can look at this in your chart is, one, looking at the houses ruled by Capricorn, Virgo, and Taurus to see where this grand earth trine is going to be taking place. Of course, if you have placements in and around, let's say, 5 to 15 degrees of Capricorn, Virgo, and Taurus, it's likely they're going to be feeling this very succinctly. You can also look to Libra, because this is where new opportunities or new initiations are going to be happening. And then we also have the Sun and Mercury making this square to Pluto. Now, with this, it can be you, because again, the Sun has the power of Mercury here to support it. So with regards to a square to Pluto, it can be power dynamics, it can be the truth, it can sometimes be dramatic, but it's often that drama that brings power and intensity. And Capricorn is also a cardinal sign. So there's going to be likely something where you get to exert power, you get to see your power in action. You might be coming up to something that's challenging where you need to assert dominance or to find what is fair and just in terms of negotiations, new opportunities, or even in certain relationships where like, I'm taking back my power. I'm going to use my words to advocate for myself or find resolution instead of continually engaging in past mindsets or past ways of expressing things. Now I get to move forward more confidently and see the fruits of my labor as I do so. We also have the moon making a sextile to Mars. That moon is also an aspect to Pluto and Saturn. Like the moon is getting lit up by everything in a very positive way. So Friday, it may seem like when it rains, it pours, but I also just feel intuitively it's going to be an opportunity for you to pat yourself on the back and seeing how everything that you've been doing, especially throughout Libra season and this eclipse season, is paying off in your favor. All right. When we get to Saturday, we also now have the moon in very close aspect with Pluto. And then there's that square with the Sun and Mercury. So this could be one of those things where something comes in on Friday and you need time to process. And so Saturday could be where you're consulting your loved ones or maybe writing a pro-con list or reevaluating and processing for you then to come up with the answer, for you to feel firm in your decision and your resolve. So Saturday could feel a little bit like processing, initiating, going through the actions. We also have the moon making this nice sextile to Neptune on Pisces. So this could be where you're getting synchronicity signs on the best path moving forward. And then of course the moon is in square aspect to the Sun and Mercury, which I just think is you overcoming a fear, or there could be a death and rebirth phase where it's like, this might seem really scary, or this opportunity, this relationship, this investment, leaving one thing to pursue another, death and rebirth, literally, could be very daunting, but it's what it is needed to move you forward. And I'm very happy personally that we have this sextile to Neptune to help support us. But then we also have this trine to Uranus. So there is going to be some sort of change in terms of feeling, in terms of emotion, in terms of confidence, in terms of opportunity that is very likely to show up Friday, Saturday. And then when we get to Sunday, we have Mercury entering Scorpio, which is then going to be making that trine to Saturn retrograde. And then the moon is going to be in Aquarius and is squaring Mercury and Mars. So with this being said, a couple of different things are being activated. One, we now have Mercury joining Mars. So there might be even more confidence or authority or tenacity or determination or even strategy on what you're wanting to pursue. So look at look at the houses in your chart ruled by Scorpio and Pisces, because there's going to be strong activation there. You can see these strong squares. And the moon in Aquarius might be the catalyst to engage in new thinking, new out of the box thinking. Because again, I think all of us can attest to when you're doing something brand new for the first time, when you've leveled up, there needs to be new thinking. There needs to be new ways of doing things that you've never done before. And that's just coming with the territory of doing it for the first time. So that could be recalibrating your thinking, your actions, your drive, determination, your confidence. That's going to be this moon, Mercury, moon, Mars square. And then with that being said, just being mindful again of who you're giving your time, your energy, your power, your love to ensure that it's aligned so that moving forward, you have the support system, you have the people in your corner that are going to help you. Why I say that is because the moon is also making this square to Jupiter. So it's likely that there's going to be either healing, more knowledge, greater opportunity, or guides, mentors, and teachers that you are calling in. So if you're feeling like this change or this opportunity is causing you to feel a little bit overwhelmed or nervous or engaging the what if it doesn't work, what if I can't do it, what if, ask for support, ask for clarity, ask for a sign, ask for some kind of book, podcast guru teacher that can help you navigate this, because that is likely to be coming through on Sunday leading into next week. And we're just days away from Scorpio season, because then the sun is going to join Mercury and Mars, and that's going to be its own shebang as we get ready for the next eclipse, which is kind of wild that we're talking about eclipse that'll happen next week. So please still integrate this current eclipse, because at the start of the week with that moon in Scorpio, there still might be a lot of intense emotions and transmutation and alchemy that is going to be taking place. All right. So for the astrology question of the week, I get this question a lot, but in terms of context with this current new moon solar eclipse, a question that I was getting was, what if I don't have any placements in Libra? Will I still be activated by this eclipse? And the answer, of course, is yes. Pretty much everyone that I talked to, whether they were a client or friend, was feeling it. Not even just during the eclipse, but the entire week. If you have placements in Libra, it'll be very obvious based on if it's an angle or a planet of what's been going on there. I had a couple clients where this eclipse was near their natal Pluto in Libra, and there was a lot of intense, dramatic events that happened, all for the greatest good, of course, but it's just very loud and very obvious if we have a planet or a placement that was in Libra during this time. If you don't have any placements in Libra, sometimes it's even more obvious of what the lunation, the retrograde, or the transit that's taking place. So even if we just look at any placement or any transit that's happening in our chart, if you don't have any planets in this example, Libra, when we have the sun moving through Libra, when we have Mercury moving through Libra or anything, there's like nothing to aspect it. There's nothing that's going to be in conjunction with it during that time. So it's going to be very loud or very obvious, I like to say, when that is happening. This was a new moon solar eclipse. So there was an energy of things needing to be released to bring in something new, or an obstacle being removed. There was a lot of beautiful comments on the new moon solar eclipse workshop about people leaving behind an old home to move into their new home. And I think one of them was also a Cancer rising, which meant that Libra ruled their fourth house, and we find home and real estate in the fourth house. So in terms of the South Node, releasing, letting go of something that is unaligned or maybe unbalanced, to then call in something new is a beautiful manifestation. So you will always be affected by these transits. If you have placements in that house, you can look to the classic interpretations of those planets or those angles. If you don't have any placements in Libra, then you can ask yourself, what came up for me during this eclipse? Where am I feeling unbalanced? What do I need to let go to bring in more harmony, peace, and justice into my life? And then if you know your birth time and have your chart, you can look at which house in your natal chart is ruled by Libra, because then the themes of that house are going to be very apparent. Let's say it is your ninth house. There could be certain mindsets, certain beliefs, or certain courses or education or spiritual beliefs that are no longer in alignment. So you're going to be letting that go to then pursue something else. Let's say it's in your fifth house that Libra rules. You might be addressing certain leisure activities or certain things that you used to think were fun. And maybe you're engaging in a games night with your partner and their best friends. You're like, I don't actually like doing that. I was just doing that of obligation because that's my partner and I want to support him, but I'd rather be at home crocheting and watching my favorite TV show every Friday night. And so then you're going to release something or maybe have a conversation with that partner on whether or not that's something that you deem fun, to then bring in more pleasure and more leisure activities into your life. And these are just, of course, general examples, but this goes not only for eclipses, but new moons, full moons, retrogrades. If you don't have any placements in that house or in that sign, then you can look to what is being activated, what are the general themes of that lunation, eclipse, or transit, and see what is applicable to you. So when you're receiving those downloads or you're seeing it manifest in your life, you know that that transit is happening. And on the flip side, you know when it's that activation is likely to end or how long it's going to be going on for. So with this eclipse, we're still in the middle of eclipse season, basically for the rest of October. So you might be feeling the effects of this eclipse in your Libra ruled house for the next couple of weeks. And that's what I was referencing to at the start of this video with the breakdown of feeling the emotions with the moon in Scorpio at the top of the week, so that we don't run away from our feelings. We don't run away from the emotions, because those emotions, those feelings, those fears are where the gold is. And also, spoiler alert, we are approaching Scorpio season. So the more that you can get ahead of this, so to speak, the greater off you're going to be once we reach not only Scorpio season, but once we get into November. Because in my opinion, November and December have some of the greatest transits for everyone for all of 2023. So do the work now, and you get to harvest all the beautiful results later, and also in this current moment, of course. So that is where we are at. Let me know how that resonates. Feel free to share your greatest victory in the comments below, including any eclipse downloads or breakthroughs if you so feel called. If you feel called, you know how it is. If you feel called to share, please do. I love reading the comments, and I'm wishing you all a fabulous week ahead. Bye for now.